Hello and good morning from Rockland with TVC 22. I'm your host, Thomas Stockting. Coming up on this week's programme, COVID-19 update as a new variant of concern is detected. Dr. Paul talks kids' vaccines, Christmas parade, a boost for local businesses, and Food Bank continues their online fundraiser. A new variant of concern, a mutation of the COVID-19 virus, has been detected in the Ottawa region. Speaking on Monday afternoon, Dr. Paul Roumeltiotis, Medical Officer for the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, said that although they are exercising caution, Omicron isn't the biggest concern.
The Omicron, which is basically the new variant that was found, there's not much now, like the transmissibility, not yet clear. It seems it may be more infectious, but it was done in a population where the majority were not vaccinated. 25% of people in South Africa are vaccinated, so it's different. It's very difficult to assess the real infectious ability of this. Severity of disease not yet clear. We've had some indication that it's been mild illness. Effectiveness of vaccines, again, we're not sure. There are many mutations in this, and I just want to tell you that for people out there, mutations, the virus has changed. It's natural, it's normal for these things to do. But what happens is we know that when viruses thrive in bodies, and the more bodies they thrive in, the more chances they have to mutate. And so it's not surprising that we're seeing mutations, and they're now called, variants of concern. And the mutations change the way that it could potentially infect others, the severity of infection, whether or not a response to vaccine. So that's why we are concerned about it. But at this point, we don't have any clear evidence. So we're going to be waiting for some of these studies to be done over the next couple of weeks as to how easily it's transmitted to people, how severe disease it gives. Do vaccines work against it? And again, in the interim, because we want to be safe, so it's rather to be safe than sorry, we are taking measures in Canada, restricting flights, quarantine testing, returning Canadians, enhanced surveillance and contact tracing. As you've heard, there is restriction of flights from 8 countries in the African area. People coming back, Canadians returning have to be quarantined and so on. And so, what we're going to be now, dealing with at the health unit, already we know that we've been notified by the Canadian government that there's a couple of individuals that have flown back over the last 14 days. So we're doing contact tracing and isolation and testing and so on. And so I just want to give you a bit of an update of where we are. So to make it clear, we have not had any cases in our area. 2 were found in Ottawa that had come back from Nigeria. We do know that, again, where this started was in South Africa, and we found it among the areas there. But 13 or 14 countries, including Canada, now have cases. And again, I just underscore the fact that there's 25% vaccinated in South Africa, and 75% of the people are walking around, which are targets for the virus. So that speaks to needing to vaccinate the world and bring up those numbers worldwide, like we have them in our area. I just want to underscore as well that we had 84 cases today. 782 were Delta. Right. And so we're still Delta focused. That's the major threat at this point in time. I'm not putting aside Omicron, but Omicron at this point is under study. We have the precautions in place, but let's keep our eye on the prize. And the prize really is to ensure that we continue our first and second doses, to really vaccinate as many people as we can, 12 to 17-year-olds, adults, and people who need their second dose. Please go get your second dose. We are going to be doing a third. We're already started a third dose rollout to ensure that when the vaccine wears out, we've given a third dose to be able to boost it up. And we're going to be, as you know, 5 to 11-year-olds rolling out vaccine, which is very important, and importantly, maintaining our public health measures, masking, being careful, not overdoing it, and so on. And those are important. Those are vital, not only for our goal here to have a spring that's relatively more normal than we've had in the last spring, but also to protect us optimally against any outside threat like Omicron, which is a virus that can potentially escape immunity and so on. But the higher immune levels we have, the better we'll be able to offset it. One of the things that people ask me about is, well, what happens if this virus or another virus, another mutation, is resistant to vaccines? Well, I know that Moderna and Pfizer, they are ready to go. They can very quickly add a component for a new variant, for example, like Omicron in the vaccine. So again, that's a hypothetical situation, but if it turns out that we need to, we will be able to do that. So that's basically why I wanted to talk about. I wanted to give media and our population here, especially that we're close to Ottawa, that we are also on standby for this Omicron variant. We have our contact tracing in place as required. Increased surveillance. We're working with the ministry. We are going to be rolling out the third doses. Stay tuned this week. There'll be some more announcements for that. We're continuing our vaccinations for children. We're continuing to urge people to get vaccinated, and very importantly, be careful particularly with the upcoming holidays. Make sure that you continue with your masking and so on. If you're with other mixed people and you don't know vaccination status, please don't take a chance.
As you heard there, although there are currently a few residents who are being monitored by the EOHU, having recently returned from the African continent, no cases of the new variant have been reported in our region just yet. Dr. Paul was also on hand, taking questions from the public during a live Q&A with MP Francis Drouin this week, as they addressed concerns regarding the vaccines for 5 to 11-year-olds.
The other question that a constituent sent was with regards to clinical trials, and I think you've alluded to this before just before the session. In the clinical trial, I believe there was about I guess that's the phase 3. There was 4,500 people vaccinated. What about the risks for the 1 out of 100,000 or 1 out of 1 million or 2 million, and the risks associated with those rare cases?
And that's what we do when we follow up on the real-time world surveillance. Right now, I think in the world there's something like 5 billion doses given, like it's in the billions. In Canada, it's in the millions, 50 million. So as we go with time, we look at those things, but we haven't seen anything in there. I can comment that about even in kids, it's 4,000, but now we've given it to 5 billion people. So we do have world data. So the world data shows us that they're safe. We know how long they last and so on. And I can also tell you that for pediatric, the 5 to 11, there's millions already given in the United States. So yes, we have 4,000 or 5,000 study, which is a big study compared to other studies. But if we now follow, because it's new, there are the very severe surveillance mechanisms that we have that look at them. And right now, like I said, in the United States, it's millions of cases. So it's much more than just for like real life, vaccinations.
Right, and any phase 3 clinical trial never includes millions and millions of people, as you said. So it's not something that was invented just recently. I mean, in the scientific process of the clinical phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, that's
a
normal
standard thing. That's all we've been doing. And also the age range. When we do the ages, adults, teenagers, kids, and then babies. It's always like that.
And on that question, are you? I heard the chief medical officer, Dr. Tam, speaking about this, but there are clinical trials for children under 5 years old right now, ongoing right now?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Yes, there are. I know that Moderna and Pfizer are doing studies on children 6 months to 4 years of age. I do believe that they'll be ready to submit next year sometime.
Okay, so we may once we're ready to do
Yeah,
that, then as a parent, I will have questions. So we'll bring you back online and we can
no
discuss
problem.
this.
No problem.
Hopefully they will be they'll be safe and because I know I'll line up to get my son
Well, I can
vaccinated.
tell you, listen, of course
Yeah,
they're gonna, they're not going to be released if they're not safe, obviously.
yeah,
And don't forget that we're also looking at different age groups. I'll be honest with you, if it's safe in a for the 5 to 11s, if it's safe in a 12-year-old, it's going to be safe in a 10-year-old. There's not that much difference, but still we need to do the studies. And the other thing too is not only they're not only doing the studies for safety, they're looking at efficiency, like what dose do they need? Like, for example, the 5 to 11 years of age, they're getting a third of the dose of the adults because it's not based on body weight, it's based on maturity of your immune system. So
okay,
we may have to even tweak it in younger kids. Depends on that. Those where the studies are as well, in addition to, of course, looking at side effects.
okay. So in adults, it has nothing to do if somebody weighs 100 pounds or 200 pounds. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just about the age of your body, the development of your
It's the
body.
way that your body reacts and those. Yeah. There are,
Okay,
and that's different from like medications. So it goes by weight,
yeah.
it's different.
OK. Une autre question. Toute la question, it hasn't nothing to do with the 5 to 11, but just the question of boosters and why do we need why we may need boosters in our population. Can you talk about this for
Sure.
a little bit?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Look,
Yeah.
first of all, we know that many vaccines need boosters, and this being a new vaccine, we're going to learn moving forward. When I was starting as a pediatrician back in the 80s, we were giving whooping cough vaccine only in the first 3 or 4 years of life. And then we found out that it wears off, so we give a booster at 14. And then we find that it wears off, we give another booster before age 65. So this is a normal thing that we see. And children's vaccines, in order for them to work, they get at least 5 or 6 doses. So it's not unusual. In this situation, what we did is we looked at the first and second dose, and we have studies now that are looking at the vaccine efficacy, blood tests, and so on to see how long the immunity lasts. And so for the mRNA vaccines, we know that at least for the first 8 months, the protection against severe disease stays at 90%. However, between 6 and 8 months, the protection against the infection goes down to about 80%. It decreases a bit. And so we want to make sure that, and then we don't have any longer studies because we're going to be moving forward. So based on those, we want to give a third dose. And if you look at elderly, they have a poor immune reaction, and therefore they needed it earlier. And that's why we started with the elderly and long-term care. So we would need a booster. The question is are we getting another booster? Are we getting another booster? We're not sure. We believe that this third dose will really give a more prolonged effect, and we'll just wait and see how that is. Do we need a yearly? I can't tell you. I can also tell you that this coronavirus is actually very smart. It's very difficult for us to get a vaccine on it. So I'm glad we have one because we've never had one before. The coronavirus actually causes a common cold. And so we know that, so we may need a booster or we may need a different one. And just I'll preempt the question, what happens if there's a Omicron is resistant? Well, we can actually tweak it very quickly and add a booster that will get the Omicron. So I can't really answer you. Will we need it every year? Will we need another one? I'm not sure, but that's the way we're going to learn. And it's not different than any other vaccine. Hepatitis, all these things, meningococcal vaccines, pneumococcal vaccines, all the vaccines that we have, we always evaluate and see, do they last forever? Do they last a couple of years? And then we act accordingly.
Okay. Thank you. Because I think I was listening to you talk on a CFRA. You were saying, every year the flu vaccine, we're never sure which strain, but they're able to modify, and it's most likely for now. We know that, as you've explained, the booster we may be needed in a few months with the elderly population, and then depending on the variants and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right. But
Yeah.
right now, as it is, we know we are protected, but it may start waning. And that's why we're giving it. And that's why, in addition to us being at the highest level of protection, we're now going to be pushing out the third doses for individuals less than 70 years of age. That's going to be announced in a week or so, or probably this week, because we want to make sure that we're maintaining a high level of protection, and high enough that even if the Omicron or a new variant that comes, even if it's a bit less effective, the vaccine, at least we have a higher rate of protection. So we're starting on a better foot. So that's why. But regardless of the Omicron, the Delta, we know that that's going to be the key. So we know that the third dose plus expanding the age groups will be the key to achieving a very high level of immunity that will allow us to then start with removing public health measures and going back to some sort of normalcy.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I know that there's folks asking about how quickly will we get back to somewhat of a normal. I can say that with Omicron, yesterday the federal government announced some border measures, and the Minister of Health, at the advice of the Chief Medical Officer, they're buying time to study Omicron and to see. I think you've alluded to this at the beginning. We're just buying time to make sure that if it is more severe, then obviously measures. And I'm sure, Dr. Paul, you're certainly not advocating for more lockdowns and and more shutdowns. That's not something that as a person you'd be advocating unless it was extremely necessary. But those are extreme measures, and with the population that's vaccinated so far, we've as you've said, hospital rates seems to be they're manageable.
There we go from MP Francis Drouin and Dr. Paul Roumeltiotis there chatting through. Obviously, as you heard, if you have any further questions, there's plenty of resources on the EOHU website, and you can obviously get in touch with them or MP Drouin himself as well. Now, let's take a look at the COVID-19 numbers that are ongoing in our region. At the time of this recording, there were 8 active cases in the United Counties of Prescott Russell, of which 1 was in Clarence, Rockland. Not too much of a change from last week, as you can see. The rolling average has remained the same at 7.7. Taking a glance at the vaccination rate, the EOHU is now at 82.8% for the first dose and 79.6% for both. As you can see, there's some changes in the numbers there, a decrease, which sounds bizarre, but that's due to an updated population census being released, in which there was a 3% rise in residents for our region. There have also now been 8,579 third doses administered, and this week the EOHU expanded the eligibility criteria for the booster shot to residents 50 years old and over. For more info, as you said, you can head to the EOHU website. Following a modified event last year due to the pandemic, the Christmas Parade of Lights is coming back to the streets of Clarence, Rockland this weekend. That's right, this Sunday. With floats aplenty featuring residents of Whoville, the Grinch and even Santa, the festive cheer will be filling the air. But along with the Christmas spirit comes some benefits for the local businesses. We caught up with Carl Parang, who is both the owner of the local Independent and the president of the Chamber of Commerce, as well as Adlan Zaidi, the co-owner of Café Joyeux on Laurier Street, to find out what it means to have this event drawing residents of Rockland back to our main street.
Yes, well, again, for the I think 4th year in a row, we will be bringing Whoville to Laurier Street. So I'll be the famous Grinch once again. So participating as we did last year, but much differently and more pleasantly too.
Yeah, having done it for so many years now, talk to us a little bit about the differences were there last year. Obviously, it was a little bit more static and stuff, but there was some. When we talk about the differences, there was some personal things that affected you, including the weather and not being able to move around, eh?
Exactly. So the fact that it was a stationary parade, I think we were outside for close to 3 hours, and in the CIH parking lot, it was very windy and cold. Although I had my Grinch costume, I was still pretty cold, and it was much different with the 2.5 hour wait, a lot of cars waiting in line, but it was much worth the wait, I believe.
And as fun and as festive as the whole thing is for the community as well, there must be, from a business point of view, some benefits as well, whether it's going around and building that relationship with the community. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you think it's so important and so good for businesses to be able to actually take part in something that involves the community in this way?
Yes, well, just for example, last year, it was worth it just to see the smiles on the faces of the kids, but also of the seniors, because most of them were stuck inside. To see them, a car filled and seeing the smiles was worth it for me. So the 3-hour wait in the cold was worth it just for that. As for a business relationship with the community, just looking at, they support you all year. To do that one parade, to build that float, and to brave the cold is worth it. And I also encourage other businesses to do the same.
And for yourself as the owner of Independent, but also as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, there must be some value as well for local businesses who perhaps have never taken part in the parade, that it would encourage people to maybe go and utilize their commerce later on in the year if they've seen them coming around and getting involved in such a way.
Absolutely. We're pushing, the Buy Local campaign with CR Local. I think in return to say thanks and to give back, smiles to the kids and everyone, just to expose your business on Laurier Street, but also to just spread the Christmas cheer. Either a big business or even if it's a family-owned mom and pop shop, put something together, put some lights, and drive down Laurier Street for an hour, and you'll see benefits for sure.
I would say that this year is different to last year, but really this year is a return to some semblance of normalcy compared to last year, where you'll be going back down Laurier Street and following that sort of same circuit. Aside from just the businesses that take part in the parade, how beneficial is this kind of community activity for the businesses on the street as well?
Yep, so especially while all the residents are on Laurier Street, they're going to fill the restaurants. Some may sit near a window to watch it, to stay warm. But also, the pizza shops get really busy for after the parade, since it's around dinner time. But also, even the other restaurants around will benefit from takeout. Even if it's a car dealership or another type of shop on Laurier, handing out some hot chocolate, putting some music for the Christmas cheer is just beneficial for them as well.
Absolutely. And Carl, just to sort of end it there, why do you think small local businesses in a community such as Clarence Rockland are so important as well, not just for providing services to the community, but also for breeding a sort of culture and an atmosphere of togetherness?
Absolutely. I think this is what separates us from big towns, big cities. Just the relationship between the residents and the business owners, as well with the working with the city to organize the parade. I think that's why people will want to move in Rockland, and that's why you see growth in this town, is that small town feel with all the big city necessities. So I think that's where we are right now, and we need to encourage that relationship going forward.
These sorts of events are crucial. They really are. Because at this time when everybody's used to sitting at home and only going out for takeout and really not getting as involved in the community as they used to, a big event to bring people together, to bring them onto Main Street especially, where most of the economic action in this town is currently happening, is it's going to be essentially what Rockland needs to jumpstart the local economy again, I think.
And how much did Café Joyeux kind of miss that? How much have you guys missed that over the last 12 to 24 months, where people just haven't been loitering around, let's say,
right,
and just experiencing Main Street, as you said yourself?
I will say that while we were definitely affected and we did see a reduction in revenue when it comes to drink sales, for example, I can't complain too much, because we have, again, as I said, a really loyal and truly caring clientele who have patronized us pretty much since this whole thing started. There was, they helped us during the first 3 months, and they never stopped. They never stopped.
But how excited are you for Sunday, seeing this number of people back
well,
out?
This is it. I am very excited for that, because as I said, drink sales haven't been as high since the pandemic started until recently. We're starting to see 2019 numbers again, and not only see it on the revenue reports, but actually see it in the store. Since the seating restrictions have been lifted up, we've been able to get all the seating back. More people are coming in, enjoying themselves. It's great. I'm very excited.
And you mentioned there, just to expand on that as well, that one of the things that attracted you to coffee and coffee shops was when you were a teenager, and that sort of community gathering space, that watering hole. How good is it to start seeing these seats out and seeing people coming back in?
When I started at this place, that was what I wanted to create. I wanted to create that experience that I had with my friends at Café Joël in 2015. And then boom, the pandemic hits, and I don't get that opportunity anymore. I've done numerous other great things while I'm here, but now is the time that I'm finally starting to see that community atmosphere come back to Café Joyeux, and I couldn't be happier. This is exactly what I signed up for.
And when you talk about the community involvement there, yourself, Mike, and the Café Joyeux as an entity have a bit of a reputation and a history of being able to help out and support local businesses and organizations, from the Valoris Foundation to the Fight for Light fundraiser that came through here a couple of months ago now, as well as obviously far beyond those two examples. Why is it so important to you and Mike to be able to support those kind of businesses and organizations locally?
Well, because it's just an extension of our mission. I said that I was here to create a sense of community with this establishment, with Café Joyeux, and what we're doing here in supporting these initiatives is taking that mission outside of the physical limits of the cafe and really giving back to the community. After everything they've given us throughout the pandemic, it's really the least we can do. Initiatives like Valoris help the disenfranchised throughout Rockland and Prescott Russell really get the help they need, and that's why we're trying to build a stronger community in that way.
As well as part of a concerted effort moving into 2022 to really give back to this community, we've recently run 3 separate fundraisers, one for our lovely local hockey team, the Rockland Nationals, and also the Rockland Scouts as well approached us for that. And then finally, we're working right now to finish up a fundraiser with the local elementary school, Carrefour Jeunesse, as well.
And to build a stronger community, one of the greatest ways of doing it is obviously retaining goods and services within the local economy as well. The recent Buy Local campaign has been a great success that had obviously a big emphasis on that. How important is it to you to be able to sort of retain services within here, sort of source things from local providers and buyers, like not just in terms of just in Clarence Rockland, but a little bit further afield as well as one needs to, but also supplying other businesses, which is a big element of what you guys do as a roastery.
Yes, we are a roastery as well. And so it's crucially important, and one of our biggest values here is to support local. Almost everything we have here, minus the coffee equipment, because unfortunately there's no local suppliers for that quite yet, but everything we have goes no further than Ottawa. We get all of our pastries made locally, whether it be strawberry blonde down in Ottawa or yummy cookies as well down in Ottawa, or the Black Walnut Bakery in Cumberland are great friends of ours. We try our best to find local producers and build them up alongside ourselves. It's the same thing with the coffee, really. We're trying to get our coffee into as many places as we can locally. Recently, we started selling at the local independent, but that's really only step one, phase one of this kind of plan of eventually, hopefully, spreading our coffee, and by extension, everything coffee has to offer, the specialty coffee industry, really introducing Prescott Russell at large to it by selling our coffee in many other local establishments.
And what are some of the goals then for Café Joyeux? You touched on them a little bit there, but whether it be next year or in the future, give me the moon and then work backwards. What do you want to see? What do you hope to get done?
Well, insofar as the coffee industry goes, the moon would be, we would like to supply all of Rockland's coffee at every establishment, when it comes, like, from the smallest cafes and restaurants to big box stores. We would like to either get our coffee in the bags, whole bean format, into as many stores as possible, or ideally, actually, what we'd really like to expand on is getting it behind bars, getting people to taste our coffee, because that's really what it's all about. It's about the experience of tasting the coffee.
And finally, Adam, just thank you so much for your time. Been great to get to know a little bit more about yourself, Mike, the business, and great to hear that the community has been able to support you during such a trying time that we've had over the last 18 to 24 months, and that there are big hopes, goals, and aspirations going forward. But casting our eyes to the very, very near future, Christmas parade of lights, can you just remind the people watching right now where you're located and what kind of things you have on offer for them that day?
Well, we are located at 1600 Laurier Street, right next to La Violette Flowers, not too far from Giant Tiger. We've got all of the Christmas drinks you need. The peppermint lattes and the gingerbread lattes abound. We can even make them chocolatier if you like. And we will be here until 5:30 to 6 p.m. on Sunday, ready to serve the community as always.
Always great to catch up with one of those locally owned businesses in Clarence Rockland. So make sure if you're out and about on Laurier Street on Sunday for the Christmas Parade of Lights, whether it be Café Joyeux, Rockland Pizza, Benny's All Day, whatever it may be, go and support these local businesses that have had such a torrid time since the pandemic began, and it's so nice to be able to just pop out there. And on top of that, you're going to want something to keep those fingers warm, right? Although the festive period can be a time for overindulgence for some, for others, it can put a strain on an already limited budget. Every year, the Rockland Help Centre dedicates the first Sunday in December to their annual Guignolé, a time where they collect food donations from families and houses across the municipality, thanks to the hard work of over 150 staff and volunteers. In 2020, forced by the pandemic, the fundraiser went virtual, and Steve Love, a key volunteer in organising the Guignolé, explained that this may become the new norm.
So the funds that we collected last year, 100% essential, because we couldn't collect food, so we had to go out and buy it. And from that, we realized that that is the absolute best way that we can do this, because we can target shop with the monies that we received and get exactly what we want. We love the donations that come in, but sometimes they're not exactly what we need. We pick up exactly what we need when we need it. We don't have a stockpile of food that's waiting to be put out, so the money way is the best way to do this.
So that's very interesting. I remember us talking last year about that sort of, well, it's a give and a take, because the Guignolé is a fantastic day of bringing that community together regardless of the weather, but it's quite the task itself. So are you seeing some benefits of these enforced changes by the pandemic in 2020?
That's correct. We've had to learn and adapt, and we found something that's better by having to do that. So it's much easier on the food bank, it's easier in the community. The Guignolé Day is a great day, but it's a huge amount of work. It's weather dependent, and you never know what you're going to get. This is much easier. We know exactly what we can get with the monies that we collect. The community, they still have their own little food drives here and there, and we receive that. But for us, this time of year when we're collecting the money, that's going to help us get through the next year.
And you speak about the hell of a day that it is in general, the effort and the work that goes in by the staff and volunteers to get that kind of stuff going. I understand that a few key members of the Rockland Help Centre here took their retirements this year, well deserved after years of helping out within the community. How has this sort of impacted the Help Centre and also in the organisation of like the fundraiser and I guess that decision to remain virtual this year as well?
It's always sad when we lose members that have been around forever. We count on their knowledge and their friendship with the community and stuff like that. But we have a lot of people here that will fill those shoes and we'll move along. The virtual part of this and collecting monies is just such a better way. It's much more efficient. It's modern day. Everything's done by computers. We can do it by computers. We can communicate that way. And we can make the best of the resources they supply us. You give us money, we'll turn that into everything we need.
And we talk about that, I think it was over $50,000 in the end that you raised last year, beating that target of $40,000. In your own words, how important is this event and that money for those families?
It's amazing, because it's so important, because those families rely on it. And for us, we only come to the community once a year. This is when we're doing it. We accept all year, and we appreciate any donations all year, but we only come once a year. And if we can get as much money as we can now, it gives us a bit of a sigh of relief knowing that we'll be able to take care of all those people. And should something happen in the future, who knows, we get another flood or whatever it is, people need things, we're there to be able to provide it for them.
So again, as you said, one of the great things about the fundraiser this year is that you can go out and tailor pick the food that is needed. But for those that want to get involved, they want to donate, are they still allowed to donate food, or is it just finances now?
Finance is the best way for us to do it now, because we don't have the setup that we used to have for collecting food. We're still COVID issues going on right now. still stuff that'd have to be quarantined or set aside. We don't have a lot of space. So we're maximizing our space to put the foods that we can purchase and stuff like that. So money is what we're looking for just now. And on that, I know some people are cautious about giving money. If I give you food, I know you've got food. But if I give you money, do I know it's going to be made into money? 100%. There isn't a person here that works at the food bank or is at the food bank that receives any money. There's no paid staff. Absolutely everything is volunteer. 100% of the money that comes in goes back out to the help center and the food bank. So rest assured, any money coming in, it's going back out to the community.
And speaking of that, what is your target for this year?
$60,000.
Setting the bar high there,
Setting
Steve.
the bar high, and it's the ideal dollar amount, and I think we're going to get there.
Grant, and for those that maybe want to donate some money, or maybe even those that look at the fantastic work you do down here, having heard of those retirements we mentioned earlier, who maybe want to volunteer and get involved, how can they get in touch with you guys?
Go to the Rockland Food Bank. If you Google the Rockland Food Bank, it'll take you to the website, phone number there, and there's an email address, and you can contact them and let them know that you're interested, and they'll get a follow-up.
And what are the dates, just to end on, what are the dates, when can people donate until?
So it's already started. We kicked it off this week, and it's going to run through until Sunday, which is traditionally the first Sunday of December was our Guignolé Day. So this is the week that we're collecting as much as we can, and it's we'll wrap it up. The plan is the wrap-up week, but we'll always be willing to accept it.
Close to that ambitious target?
I don't know. I can't tell you right now.
Can't tell it? All right. Well, you heard it there. Steve Love from the Help Centre here in Rockland, encouraging you to go out and donate a little bit more money and help out those families in need this year. Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some great work, as always, being done by the Help Centre. There is still time to donate to this year's Guignolé, this annual fundraiser. So head over to their Facebook page or website to be able to contribute. Ends on Sunday, but it doesn't mean you can stop then either. That's it for this week, though. As ever, if there's a story within the community that you think needs some light shined on it, then you can reach out to us. You can get in touch by calling the station, extension number 4 to reach me. If I don't answer, you can always leave a voicemail. I'll do my best to get back to you. You can also email me at nouvelle with an S at the end at tvc22.ca. And for now, it's good morning from me. It's good morning from the team, and we'll see you next weekend. Goodbye, Clarence Rockland.